All right, everyone, buckle up because today we're going deep on something that might make you look twice at that snack you're holding.
We're diving into the world of banned foods.
Canned foods, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, those American treats and eats that are actually considered too risky in other countries.
It's fascinating, right? What we consider perfectly normal here can be totally off limits somewhere else.
Totally. And that really got us thinking about just how different food standards can be around the world.
Absolutely. The US has its own set of rules, but a lot of other countries are way stricter about what they allow in their food.
Stricter, yeah. Think like way stricter. And that leads to some pretty wild differences. We're talking about stuff you probably grew up with, like Skittles, Mountain Dew,
Yeah.
even things like chlorine-washed chicken.
Hmm. Definitely not something you see on every grocery list.
No kidding. So in this deep dive, we're going to unpack why some of these American staples are considered straight up dangerous elsewhere.
And what that tells us about the whole system, like how food is produced, how it's regulated, and how aware we are as consumers.
It's a big topic, but I think we can handle it.
Oh, I'm sure we can. There's a lot to unpack, especially when you start thinking about the balance between what people want to eat,
Yeah.
how efficiently we need to produce food, and the potential risks to our health. It gets complicated.
It does. And to kick things off, let's talk about those rainbow-colored candies that are basically a childhood rite of passage. Skittles.
Yeah.
Illegal in countries like Norway and Sweden. Can you believe that? Candy being outlawed.
It's surprising for sure.
It really is.
But when you dig into it, the concerns center around those artificial dyes that give Skittles their vibrant colors.
Oh, right, the dyes.
Specifically, yellow 5, which also goes by the name tartrazine, and titanium dioxide. Some studies have linked these to potential long-term health problems, particularly for kids.
So it's not just a sugar rush we should be worried about.
Not exactly. There's a growing body of research suggesting that these dyes could have a more lasting impact, and some countries are taking a better safe than sorry approach.
Makes sense. And Skittles aren't alone in this, right? I mean, Mountain Dew, those little Debbie Swiss rolls,
Yeah,
they've got those same dyes.
you got it. They face similar restrictions in some parts of the world. And it really raises the question about the long-term effects of these additives, because for a lot of them, we just don't have enough data yet.
It's kind of scary, right?
Oh,
Like, we don't really know the full story.
yeah. And it's not just the super processed stuff. Even basic foods that we think of as pretty simple, like bread, can have controversial ingredients.
Bread, really? What's in bread that's so bad?
Well, there's this ingredient called azotocarbonamide.
Azotocarbonamide.
Say that 10 times fast.
I'm not even going to try.
But anyway, this stuff is used to bleach flour and make dough rise quicker. Great for industrial baking, right?
Right.
Super efficient.
Right.
Except studies have linked it to respiratory problems and other health issues.
So no more fluffy bread.
Well, Europe's banned it entirely. They're not taking any chances. But in the US, it's still allowed.
Wow, that's kind of a big difference.
It is. It really highlights that tension between making food affordably and quickly for a huge population and, potentially putting people at risk.
And that brings us to meat and poultry. Things get even more intense there.
Oh, yeah. That's where the sparks really start to fly.
So, seriously, in our research, we found these two examples that just blew our minds. The first one is ractopamine in pork.
This is a big one. We're talking about a growth hormone that over 160 countries have banned.
160, that's insane.
I know, right? But in the US, it's still allowed. Farmers use it to make pigs grow faster and leaner.
So more meat for the masses, but at what cost?
Exactly. Because ractopamine has been linked to heart problems, tremors, and behavioral changes. And the fact that so many countries have rejected it really speaks volumes about the global concern.
It's a huge red flag. And then there's the whole issue of chlorine-washed chicken, which is a no-go in the European Union.
Ah, yes, the chicken wars.
It sounds intense.
It is. It's a great example of how different approaches to food safety clash. So in the US, giving chicken a chlorine bath to kill surface bacteria is pretty common practice.
A chlorine bath. Seriously.
Seriously. But the EU, they're totally against it.
Why is that?
They focus on preventing contamination during the entire process, from the farm all the way to your plate. They call it farm-to-fork safety. Their argument is that using chlorine washes just masks problems further up the chain.
So it's like a Band-Aid solution instead of addressing the root cause.
Exactly. Two totally different philosophies.
It's pretty wild. And then, of course, you have the food bans that are more about politics and culture than safety.
Oh, absolutely. Like, remember when Coca-Cola was banned in North Korea and Cuba?
Yeah. Like, what's so dangerous about a Coke?
Nothing inherently but food can become a powerful symbol in geopolitical conflicts. Sometimes it's about economics, sometimes it's about sending a message.
It's crazy how food can be
Yeah.
so intertwined with all these bigger issues, right?
Totally. It's not just about what we eat, it's about what it represents.
So big picture time. What does all of this tell us about the state of global food standards?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways here is that there's a growing awareness about the potential downsides of certain food additives and the ways we produce food on a massive scale.
Yeah.
Lots of countries are raising the bar, putting tougher regulations in place to safeguard their citizens' health. But the U.S., well, you're not always keeping pace.
That's a bit unsettling, isn't it?
It is. It's a bit of a wake-up call to really look at what's in our food and ask some hard questions.
Totally. And it makes this whole idea of food choices feel a lot more complicated.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you consider that there's no universal rule book for food safety. Different countries have different priorities, different values, different approaches.
So what can we do? As individuals, how do we navigate this confusing landscape?
That's the million-dollar question. It boils down to being informed, read labels, do your research, understand what's going into your body.
Knowledge is power, right?
It really is, especially when it comes to food.
So let's recap, shall we? We've learned that tons of everyday American foods are banned in other countries because of safety concerns. Everything from those brightly colored candies to the ways we process our meat.
And those bans force us to confront the fact that the U.S. allows a lot of things that other countries just won't tolerate.
It's definitely made me think twice about what's in my pantry.
And that's the goal. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about encouraging people to be more aware, more curious, more proactive.
I think that's a great point. And it leaves us with a pretty big question to ponder.
Definitely.
If there's this much disagreement about what's safe to eat, how much can we really trust our own food regulators to put our health first?
Right. And how can we, as individuals, make the best choices for ourselves and our families?
Food for thought, literally.
Exactly. It's something to chew on.
Oh, I see what you did there.
All right. All right. I'll stop with the puns.
Too late, the damage is done.
Well played.
But seriously, this has been a fascinating dive into the world of banned foods.
And we hope it sparks some curiosity about what's on your plate.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time.
See ya.